We're all looking to make more money and achieve financial freedom because we think that's what's gonna make us happy. But the truth is, all the money in the world won't bring us happiness unless we're also investing in these 4 areas that have nothing to do with the stock market or any sort of investment or anything that money can buy. We're gonna talk about those 4 things today on Mindset with Brad Barrett. Let's go. Well, welcome back everybody to Mindset. I am Brad Barrett. This is producer Jared. Today we're going to talk about a little bit more than just money. The framework of this show and what we want to set up here each and every week to talk to you about is your mindset. Understanding who you are as it relates to your money and why you are doing what you are doing with your money. And I thought in saying that we talk about 4 specific areas or assets that we all should be investing in that money cannot buy. Now me saying that to you, Jared, before even going into this, what do you think that even means?
But money can't buy.
It's so profound, it's just beyond your understanding.
Money can't buy happiness, Brad.
There we go.
So I'm told. But it can buy a boat.
We're gonna talk about that. Can't buy me love, the Beatles said it, right?
Mama say that happiness is from magic rays of sunshine that come down when you're feeling blue.
Some of the things we're gonna talk about here today, assets that we're labeling as assets, wouldn't be necessarily a Roth IRA or a 401k or a house or a stock. I'm not talking about that today. I'm talking about valuable things that we tend to overlook. One thing I remember hearing a long time ago that I want to bring up that I think is good is this notion of if it doesn't bring you peace, profit, or purpose, then don't give it your time, energy, or attention.
Oh, that's good.
And I think it's really a good thing for all of us to understand where we're placing our time. And speaking of time, that's actually the first asset I want to talk about here. Because I'm not sure who needs to hear this, but I feel like a lot of people do. The number one area you should be investing in this world is your time.
I don't know how much time I have left, so I have to start living.
Money buys you time, just to be clear, all right? The difference between rich and wealthy, you know what the difference is? If I were to ask you what the difference between someone rich versus wealthy is?
I know what you said. Rich is loud, wealthy is quiet.
Good, you are listening. People are listening here.
I'm listening.
There's many things I say about this, but let me tell you this one in this context. Rich, we tend to equate to dollars. And wealth, if you ask any one of my clients who we would on paper consider wealthy, what they're really doing is what they have more of than us, let's just say, isn't just money, it's time. Wealth is time.
Sure, because you can pay somebody to clean your house, save
Bingo.
you time. Pay somebody to do X, Y, Z.
You're buying yourself little bits of future time. If a 95-year-old person came to you, and you can answer this right now, came to you right now, 95, who's worth, I don't know, make up a number, $10 billion, something huge, right? Yeah. And said, Jared, I will trade you my $10 billion, but you become 95 years old and I become, however, 40 years old. What would you say?
No, it's not something I need to even think about.
It's an easy answer, is it not? Yet
Yes.
we get wrapped up in the daydreaming of what it would be like to be a billionaire. And we don't realize that the billionaire doesn't care about that as much as we think they do. They care about the fact they would trade that money for time.
Yeah.
If you can answer that yourself just the same, like I wouldn't trade that. And then you start going, well, if he was 80, you start getting these all weird little scenarios. You care about time way more than you think. No one's gonna remember your fancy job. No one's gonna remember your title. No one's gonna remember your income. No one's gonna remember your fancy car you're driving right now. What they are going to remember, the people in your circle that you think you care about, and I hope you do, right, is the time you spent with them. That's what they're gonna care about. Flat out, plain and simple.
I've always thought I can always make more money. I can never make more time.
It's true.
It's that one thing you can never get it back.
You can't. It's the commodity, and think about it this way. No matter where you watch this right now, whether you're 20, let's say you're younger, your 20s and 30s right now, and you're watching this. Think about every person that you may know in your 50s, 60s, 70s. They're all trying to buy back time. They're trying to look younger, right? They're trying to act younger, dress younger, right? We in our 20s and 30s forget. Remember the old saying, youth is wasted on the young, right? As I get older, I start realizing that because I hurt now when I wake up in the morning just because I slept wrong one time, right?
Me too.
So time matters. So the number one area that is, I think, more valuable than assets or possession is time. Time with your family, time with your loved ones, time with yourself. Man, go do your hobbies, go do your purpose. Don't just be working 1,000 hours a week. Don't be going crazy just to get ahead. Have some time for yourself. So I think that's one of the areas of investing in this world that has a lot to do with more than just money.
Yeah. Having a wealth of time, I would think many people would desire above money currently. Now, I will
Right.
say this, when I look at the times that I'm most stressed or aggravated, it tends to not be because I don't have enough money or whatever. It's because I don't have the time to do what I need to do. Or, something I'm on a time crunch, I'm on a deadline, I have to get all this done by this.
And that tells you that actually matters more to you than making the money does.
It stresses me out more than lack of money does.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
This is always a tough one because I'm a doer, and I always have been. And I my sleep isn't great personally. I put in a lot of hours in work, not because I really enjoy it. So this, to be honest with you, I'm with you. For those of you who are watching this, like, I'm candid about this because these 4 I wrote down because these are things I've seen experience-wise. It's also anecdotal, but I also struggle with a lot of these. In full disclosure, like, my wife has been a really good godsend for me to kind of help me calm down and say, hey, do you really need to go do that right now, or do you want to spend some time with me and the kids? And then the answer is always her and the kids. And she knows that of me, and I do want that. But I also do really love what I do, and I'm very fortunate for that. But with that comes a little bit of a burden that I have to manage everything together. What I have found is I kind of call it holy time. I feel like when you dial back, you kind of sit, you pray about it, you go through it, like God almost creates time in the universe. Like I'm a believer in this. It sounds a little hokey, but like I've seen it in my own life where I'm like, God, I look at a day and I'm just like, God, there's no way I'm gonna be able to get done today what I think I need to get done.
Yeah.
And somehow, when I'm really intent on it and I really seek Him first in this whole thing, I realized by like 3 or 4 o'clock, I finished everything I thought I was, that I wasn't gonna get done at like 10 o'clock. And it's a really cool thing. So I just do believe there are powers out there that can help you with this, and it's also a mind shift. We call this show Mindset for a reason. How you go after the day matters.
Hey, maybe I should try this.
Seriously.
The guy's making a lot of sense. He's really speaking to me.
And that leads into number 2, which is relationships, right? We're spending time, we're going through things. Our relationships in this world matter. You ever heard of the saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
My whole career is based on who you
Same.
know.
Mine as well. And I think a lot of people out here watching, a lot of times when I talk to clients, that is a fact. Relationships may take time to cultivate, but at the end of the day, they are the most rewarding. So why would we not invest our time in these? Yes, it's hard. Yes, it's difficult. And especially when you have relationships that are more formidable than maybe others. And I don't mean this in a bad way, but like you have a wife or a husband now versus maybe a best friend who you saw every week. You got to prioritize the time a little bit because you're, there's different ages and stages of your life that you're in.
Yeah, investing in those relationships. I mean, I had a former mentor that used to be kind of a higher up at Microsoft. He got diagnosed with cancer, and when he was going through that battle, he was very wealthy, had a lot of things, and he told me that he's like, as I'm facing death, I don't look back and say, I wish I would have made more money. I wish I'd have bought a bigger boat.
Yeah.
He said, I wish I would have spent more time with my wife. I wish I knew my kids better.
Yeah.
And I remember it changed my whole perspective. I'm like, well, why am I spending 14 hours at work
Yeah.
when I have a wife at home, when I haven't spoken to my,
Yeah.
my father in months?
Yeah. And, that reminds me, it's funny. I was in college, I want to say, and there was a guy who came and spoke, and he was kind of like, he was like an executive. I can't remember the company. I don't remember the context, but I remember how I felt when he said this. He said, success to me is that I have a working relationship and I'm in discussions all the time, weekly, with my kids. Success to me is that I've been married for 35 years to the same woman. And I remember thinking that it was kind of like one of those things, like, even if you're watching this video right now and what we're saying here isn't hitting right now, it will later. Because I remember,
For sure,
you know what I mean?
yes.
Like, I remember then I was like, my logical brain was like, that doesn't register right now, because I was so focused on building a business and doing exactly what I wanted to do. Like, what God touched my heart with is to do this, and that's what I was going to do, right? But I remember in my heart feeling a little tug, like, ooh, that's good, and I'm going to use that later. I don't know how to use that, apply that now, but I can use that later.
I think we have, when we're younger, we have the foundations in there. We kind of know that family, those relationships are key.
Yeah.
But we get kind of sidetracked with the watch, the cars, the money, the paychecks, and
Totally.
boats. And
I think look, this isn't a show to like knock you down if you're focusing on those kind of things. It's just to kind of what I call, it's like the zoom out theory. It's like, look, we tend to sometimes get really myopic, and hopefully, God willing, you clicked on this because something was hitting on you. Now we can just kind of zoom out. It's not that you don't can't focus on the watch or the cars or the job. I'm not saying that, because those are all important for different things. But your time, so far we talked about your time matters, I think, above all else. Your relationships matter above all else, I mean above money in particular. And these are indirect ways that actually bring you more joy in your life. Like it's the old saying, right? The real measure of your wealth is how much you'd be worth if you'd lost it all. Because you can amass this wealth, but if your identity is attached to it, it's a means to an end.
Right, because that financial wealth can be easily taken away.
Easily. And so having roots, having foundations build your life and your foundation on the rock, not the sand, is a big concept here. I mean, God talks about it constantly in the Bible, and I think it's a really, really important tool for us all to have. Remember, peace I leave you, not of this world. And so we're seeking here on earth, all of us, as humans, we're seeking to find joy and peace and purpose in things that are inanimate objects that will not give it back to us. Like, you know, it's important to take stock in that. So your relationships are really key.
Hey, buddy, let's be friends and high five and stuff.
And that actually leads into my third one I want to bring up, which is health. I have said this often as an advisor of 2 decades now. What I've seen is that we tend to sacrifice our health for our wealth in our earlier years. And then ultimately, without realizing it, we then sacrifice our wealth for our health. Because we neglect the things in our 20s, 30s, and maybe 40s and 50s because we're so bent on making sure that we achieve that financial number or, you know, make that sale or whatever it is, right? That we tend to overlook the things that actually matter. Because I'll tell you what, you had a great example. That's a great statement. And I unfortunately have a lot of stories like this where some things are out of our control. We can't control if you get cancer or you have something traumatic happen to you, because life can happen at fast. I've learned that in my own life. Things can change on a dime. And so if you don't have yourself set up mentally, spiritually, physically, health-wise, no amount of money is going to fix that.
Yeah, and you know, cancer and these unforeseen things are one thing, but there's so many people that I have friends that were working themselves so hard and putting so much stress. You start getting ulcers, you start getting these things where they're physically deteriorating because they're focusing everything, putting their health to the side, working 60, 70, 80-hour work weeks, not sleeping, all for that paycheck.
Yeah, and it's hard because I've been in that camp where you're working a bunch and I'm just like, I'm ordering takeout because I don't have time to cook a meal. I don't have time to think about meal prep. These influencers can show me whatever they want. Oh, the things that get ready with me today, the things I eat today. Like, dude, bro.
4 hours of meal prep and you can eat like
4 hours,
this.
no problem. Yeah, you know, but like, so piss off. Like, it's just kind of like, stop it, all right?
You know, carbs are the enemy, you know. We don't like carbs, you know what I mean?
And it's prioritizing. I mean, you know, you always hear people say, like, I just don't have a half hour in my schedule a day. I don't have an hour in a schedule.
Yeah.
But you look at nearly every single person, I've done this in my life where I've said these things of like, I can't work out, I can't find an hour.
Yeah.
But if I looked at my life and be like, well, I take about a half hour and I look at my phone when I sit there after work, I do this. There's a lot of downtime that we're just like wasting or prioritizing doing something we probably either shouldn't or could easily take out.
Does health directly affect your bank account? No, but it definitely indirectly does, same as time and same as relationships.
Well, let's be real. Doctor's bills, medical bills, hospitals ain't cheap.
Ain't cheap. Oh
and it's
gosh.
only getting worse.
I
So
know.
if you can, a pound of prevention, what is it? An ounce of prevention beats a pound of cure.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So, you know, apple a day, keep that doctor away.
Yeah.
So yeah, prevention matters, big time. So health is a big deal. Fourth and final one, this one is, the first three are more direct. This one's a little bit more abstract, but I wanted to put it in here because I think it's important, and frankly, it kind of concludes everything I've been talking about in the first three. Peace of mind. If you don't invest in your own peace of mind, directly or indirectly, even if you spend time creating your own freedom or spend time with relationships or spend time taking care of your health, but you don't have peace, you don't got nothing. So being content with what you have is really important. And I wrote this down as contentment versus complacency. I wrote this down because I work with a lot of doers, you know, type A doers. Many of you who watch our show and comments and our communication that we've had, you're doers, right? You wouldn't be watching something educationally to kind of figure out how better to do something or learn something if you weren't somewhat proactive in bettering yourself. So what I've found and experienced, and even in my own life, is I have struggled at times between complacency versus contentment. There's a bridge somewhere. I have yet to find it. So if you do comment, let me know. But contentment is being okay with the things that I cannot change. That's, I think, key point number one. Having peace with where you were born, the things that you really have no control over. Your skin color, whether you have hair or don't have hair, whether your height.
Yeah.
I mean, all these, you can go down the list, genders and whatever you want, right? Being content with the things that God gave you is probably paramount and key step number one. Complacency is the part where it's like you're choosing to not change the things that you do have control over. That's complacency. And I think it's important to make sure, and I'm bringing up complacency and contentment because those are, to me, the two things that we talk about when it comes to peace of mind. And no matter who you are, what background you're coming from, what numbers you have behind your name in terms of your bank account and wealth and all the things we talk about in the money world, which is what we do, the happiest clients I have would likely not be the wealthiest or richest clients that most people would say they must be happy. The happiest, most joyful clients I have something, this fourth thing that we are all trying to find. They have peace.
And I'll say this: you've heard the very famous verse, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me."
Yep.
Athletes put it on their
Philippians,
shoe.
yeah.
Philippians 4:13.
Yep.
The lesser known verse right before that I want to read because it's really important. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all things. And that verse really is, yes, Christ strengthens me to do anything. But it's that contentment of saying, I've had nothing and I've been happy and content.
Yeah.
I've had a lot and been happy or content.
Yeah.
That the lot or little is not the important issue. It's being content with either.
Yeah, that's so strong and powerful. I mean, I think we forget a lot about that.
Yeah.
We do. My question is, when you wake up one day, whether that's 10 years, 15, 20, or 30 years, and you look back on the goals you set in your 20s and you have that all of a sudden now, but you're not at peace, you got lost in the shuffle of not spending the time in these areas. You weren't content with understanding what you did have. Hopefully you've all had someone in your life that you're like, man, they have something. There's something going on there. But then you start, your human earthly brain starts thinking, well, they don't drive a nice car. They don't have a really good job, I don't think. It's terrible what happens. But then you start taking back, if you look at it from our world, the other perspective we're bringing up here is they're happily married, they got kids, they've been blessed with kids maybe, they have a good relationship with them, they got friends. I mean, they're walking around with a different kind of strut. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't know what it is, but they got it. And friends, I'll tell you, the summation of this show today is really, it's not the money. And I think that's really important for us. That is the secret of life. It's why I put it in there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the wealth we're talking about here. It's
Yeah.
the wealth of relationship, wealth of time, the wealth of health, these things that go beyond finances and money.
And that's why I wanted to put all these together for you today, because I really think it's important that we talk about it. If we're going to talk about the philosophy of money, and we're going to have a show about money, and we're going to talk about advising around money, I will tell you, as a financial advisor, again, of 20 years plus, and as a firm, the majority of the conversations I have privately with our clients have very little to do with dollars and cents. I need to say that loud and clear. I have been serving clients for 2 decades. We manage over $7 billion for clients. We are a very, I would say, healthy-sized boutique wealth management firm based here in Los Angeles with multiple different offices across this country. The majority of the conversations we are having have very little to do with dollars and cents. It is their relationships. It is their values. It is their interests, their hobbies, their goals. These are the things we talk about, and these are the things I want you all to be thinking about, because these 4, I could go down the list on it. I could have added values, I could have got interests, and how I could have kept going. I kept it concise with these 4 because I feel like these are like the top 4. These are like the secret to life kind of stuff. And if you didn't hear it from somebody else, I wanted you to at least hear it from me. Because again, this is experience, this is personal, this is more than just dollars and cents. And if you're not working with an advisor right now or don't have that relationship with them, this is what a good advisor, in my opinion, a good fiduciary advisor should be doing this for you and with you. Because if you have these, let me end it this way. If you have these 4, then you will have wealth. It's just that simple. We need to redefine the word wealth a little bit, but if you have those 4 things, that is the secret.
Yeah. If you don't have these, what's the point?
Because someone could argue that, and I say the devil's advocate to that is, if you don't have these, well, then what do we got? Well, Brad, I got $1 billion in the bank. Yeah, sure, but you're gonna die soon.
Right.
You got no one at your bedside.
Can't take it with you.
Can't take it with you, dog. You came into this world naked, you're gonna bounce naked. Like, it's just how it's gonna go down.
Yeah.
So maybe that was a little on the nose today, I don't know. I hope it helped. You know, we really do care about writing these things and talking about these things, having open dialogue about them. As always, we love for you to share our videos, subscribe, let us know how we're doing. We always love to hear comments and let us know if we missed something. I mean, again, like I said, I can go down the list on these things, but and let us know what you liked or didn't like. We always like to learn here, but we'll be back soon next week. We're excited for that. And as always, if you lead with love, I promise you things will be okay. Until then, see you guys.